They got pretty good response time around here for the volunteers.
Yeah, and if there's enough people that you only want to the station or have our
So-
you might just go directly to the house.
Well, it's
You know, because if you hear somebody, you're not thinking you're going there.
No, I'm glad it turned out.
So in any of these ordinances or rezones, if you don't feel comfortable voting on it today, you can postpone it to the next meeting if you want to. But if you don't, so.
I think it's probably. Everybody ready to go? TV studio ready? Anyone? They good? They're good. Okay. All right. It is 9 o'clock or 9:01, and I will call the May 4th, 2022 Environment and Land Use Committee meeting to order. We'll start with a roll call of committee members. I am Kellen Nelson, County Board Supervisor, District 14.
Riley Foltz, County Board Supervisor, District 11.
Stacy Klein, District Number 2.
Dave Larson, Supervisor, District 16.
Tony Munson, Town Association Rep.
Randy Severson, Livestock Producer Member.
Mark Carlson, Department of Land Management.
Burge Gamera, Department of Land Management.
Mike Kornman, Director of Land Management.
Okay, I certify that open meeting law requirements have been met with proper posting. We have a 18-item agenda. No amendments. Do we have a motion to adopt?
Make a motion to adopt the agenda. Second.
First Munson, second Larson. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. And we will move on to the election of officers. So the first office position, we'll now looking for a nomination for chair.
Nominate Kellen Nelson.
I'll second that.
Okay. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? If not, I would,
Make a motion to cast unanimous ballot for Kellen Nelson, or close nominations and make a
Okay.
motion to cast unanimous ballot for Kellen Nelson.
okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, Munson and Foltz. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, I will be the chair. Any nominations for vice chair?
I nominate Dave Larson.
Second.
Okay, we have Munson and Klein have nominated Dave Larson. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, would somebody like to make a motion to,
Yeah, I'll motion to close nominations and unanimous vote.
okay,
I'll second that.
Klein and Foltz.
Would you make sure your microphone?
Oh, I'm sorry.
And that you're speaking loudly?
Yep.
Okay, so all in favor of Dave Larson being vice chair, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations, Dave.
Maybe.
We'll see, huh? Next, I'd like to open nominations for secretary. Can I make a nomination from the chair? I nominate Randy Severson.
Second.
Okay. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, would someone like to make a motion?
Make a motion to close nominations, cast unanimous ballot for Randy Severson.
Second.
Munson and Larson, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Congratulations, Randy. Our next item would be adoption of our minutes from the April 6th regular meeting. Everyone should have received those. Any questions, corrections, additions? If not,
Do new members have the authority to make the motion to adopt, or did we have to be at the meeting?
that's good, Rick.
Yeah. Generally, if someone hasn't attended a meeting, they usually abstain from voting on that. Now, I think the majority of you are newer, so you weren't at the last meeting.
Right.
But you still, 3 out of...
There's still
We still
two of
have
us.
Three.
Three, yeah.
Out of, how many is it, 6 or 7? 6.
6 here today.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of last month's meeting.
I'll second it.
First Munson, second Severson. All in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Motion carried. Next, we'll move on to our item number 7, public hearing, land use change or rezone from exclusive Ag 2, EA2 to industrial. Felty and Mary Lambright, petitioner.
You get to read.
Yeah. They just show me what to read.
Call the hearing
So
to
how much
order
of
at
this do I
9:07,
There will be a public hearing.
as far as I can tell.
This whole.
It is. Need to put one over
All the
there.
way down to the bottom.
Yeah, right.
So there's a notice of public hearing for a land use change or rezoned. There will be a public hearing before the Trumple County Environment and Land Use Committee on Wednesday, May 4th, 2022 at 9 a.m. in the county boardroom of the courthouse, 36245 Main Street, Whitehall, Wisconsin. The purpose of this hearing is land use change rezone from exclusive Ag 2 EA2 to industrial on approximately 2 acres for the purpose of erecting a building for roll forming steel located in the northwest corner of the northeast corner, all in of Section 7, Township 2, 1N, Range 7 West, Town of Preston, Trumple County, Wisconsin, parcel number 024-00138-0005. Hearing is requested by Felty F. Lambright Jr. and Mary Lambright, Blair, Wisconsin, landowner petitioner. Trumple County invites you to join in this meeting as follows. To provide public comment on these hearings, please call 715-538-1770. Your attendance and comments are encouraged at this hearing. If you are unable to attend and have any questions, please call Verge Gamroth with the Department of Land Management at 715-538-1916 or email verge.gamroth@countytrumpealeau.wisconsin.us. If you are unable to attend and desire to submit a written comment, please send your written comment to Department of Land Management, Post Office Box 67, Whitehall, Wisconsin, 54773, or email to verge.gamroth@county.trumpealeau.wisconsin.us. Please know that written comments will be read at the public hearing up to 250 words. All written comments must include the name and address of its author and the request that the letter be read at a particular meeting date. Any special interest groups or expert witnesses will be allowed 20 minutes to give a presentation and must register at least 1 week prior to the meeting date by calling Verge Gamroth of the Department of Land Management at 715-538-1916. Sincerely, Verge Gamroth, Department of Land Management.
Okay. Thank you, Randy. Verge, do you have an overview?
I'd like to recognize Felty, who's at the meeting. Felty, you want to come and sit over here? He's our applicant. I'd also like to point out the map of his property that is behind us on the screen. I'd also like to take a minute to refer to your agenda. The public hearings are scheduled 5 minutes apart. On the agenda, and the reason we do that is by state statute, we cannot start the hearing until we reach that time. So these meetings will go over 5 minutes, but, what time do you pick to start? So we just schedule them 5 minutes apart all the time, just so we can meet statutory requirements. Right, Rick? Okay, all right, sorry. I'll commence with the meeting. Felty is here, and he would like to rezone that piece of property that I referred to from exclusive Ag 2 to industrial, to erect a building to take coiled steel and turn it into a usable steel called roll forming, and we'll have him explain that a little bit more when I'm finished. This hearing was published 2 consecutive weeks in the newspaper 10 days prior to the hearing, and all the adjoining landowners were notified. I received a letter from Martinburg, which I'll read into the record when we call for testimony, and I do have a letter from the town of Preston. The land use plan calls for the land to be exclusive Ag 2. However, there is institutional land over here, which is a cemetery, and this is industrial land, which is in the city of Blair technically. So I just wanted to point those 2 things out. And that's all I have for you.
Felty, is there anything else that you would like to add to what's been presented so far? Okay. If not, for the time being, we will, excuse me, open this for public comment or testimony. Is there anybody that would like to comment regarding this rezone? Is there anybody that would like to comment regarding this rezone? Has anybody signed up to comment on this one, do you know?
I don't have
think
any
so.
sheets if you don't have any.
Sure.
I do have a letter from Martinburg.
Yeah, would you go ahead and read that?
Okay, this letter I received on April 11th. I'm sorry, not the letter, but he called me. On April 11th, Martinburg called, stated he received the letter about the hearing for Felty and Mary Lambright. He is their closest neighbor to the site. He actually sold them the land. He couldn't make the hearing, but stated he was okay with whatever they're doing.
Thank you, Verge. Is there anybody that would like to offer a public comment regarding this rezone?
Mr. Chair, I don't know if this is the right time or afterwards for me as part of the committee, but I just have a question in regard to the cemetery next door. What kind of noise will be involved with this, and would it possibly interfere with burials, which is already a hard time for people? Just a question.
Noise will be very minimal. It'll be an enclosed building. It'll be, like I said, the only thing we hear is probably a low noise of a diesel engine running, but I mean, that would probably be the only noise. And the building will be on the opposite side of the building that's already there, so.
Be away from the cemetery anyway.
Yeah, and if the cemetery only gets basically used for the Amish, so when there is a burial, there'll be nothing going on there anyway, so.
Okay.
And we usually, part of the building, we have the funeral services in that building we've had already, so. But yeah, okay, but good question.
Okay, is there anyone else that would offer public comment on this? Verge, it looks like we have a letter from the town.
Yes, I have a letter from the town of Preston dated February 21st. The town of Preston Board of Supervisors have received a request from Felty and Mary Lambright to rezone 2 acres at N32868 Schonsberg Road, Blair, Wisconsin, from exclusive Ag 2 to industrial. The town of Preston Board of Supervisors passed a motion at their February 14th, 2022 board meeting voting in favor of this request. The vote was 3-0 in favor of this motion. Sincerely, Kathy Nelson, Clerk, Town of Preston.
Okay, if there's not any other public comment on this, I will close the public hearing at 9:15 and look for a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, first Severson,
I'll second.
second by Larson. Any other discussion from the committee?
I'm just curious about what size the building's going to be and where it's going to be on the lot.
It's 15,000 square feet, and it'll be sitting to the west of, so if you're looking at the picture, it would be to the left
Okay.
of that
Attached? or-
attached, yeah, with a firewall in between, so.
Okay.
Okay, any other discussion on it? If not, I would call this to a vote. We have a motion on the floor to approve this rezone from EA2 to industrial. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. This will go to full county board in May here, I assume?
Yes,
So that would be when it would be formally approved, Felty.
May 16th.
So, May 16th.
And I'll be in touch with you about that.
Sounds good.
And then you'll have to sign the resolution.
Okay. All right, and I think we have another.
That's all you need from me. Thanks.
Thanks,
everybody.
Felty.
Have a good day.
And we have another, this is a conditional use permit. Item number 8, Lacey Austin for a farm home business. We'll we'll call it to order at 9:17. And Randy, would you be willing to read
You
the?
want me to put it up there?
We have a notice of public hearing for a conditional use permit for farm home-based business accessory. There will be a public hearing held before the Trumple County Environment and Land Use Committee on Wednesday, May 4th, 2022 at 9:05 a.m. in the County Boardroom Courthouse, 3624-5 Main Street, Whitehall, Wisconsin. The purpose is to consider a conditional use permit for a farm home-based business accessory. The location is southeast 1/4 of the northwest 1/4, section 29, town 24 north, range 9 west in the town of Albion, Trumpealeau County, Wisconsin, parcel number 002-00650-0000. The hearing is requested by Lacey T. Austin, petitioner, Brandon J. and Lacey T. Austin, landowner, Oliva, Wisconsin, 54738. Your attendance and comments are encouraged at this hearing. If you are unable to attend and have any questions, please call Mark Carlson with the Department of Land Management at 715-538-2311, extension 259, or email to Mark Carlson at countytrumpealeau.wisconsin.us. If you are unable to attend and desire to submit a written comment, please send your written comments to the Department of Land Management, Post Office Box 67, Whitehall, Wisconsin, 54773, or email to Mark Carlson at countytrumpealeau.wisconsin.us. Please know that written comments will be read at the public hearing up to 250 words. All written comments must include the name and address of its author. Any special interest groups or expert witnesses will be allowed 20 minutes to give a presentation and must register at least 1 week prior to the meeting date by calling Mark Carlson of the Department of Land Management at 715-538-2311, extension 259. Sincerely, Mark Carlson, Zoning and Sanitary Specialist.
Okay. Thank you, Randy. Mark, do you have an overview?
Yes, I
for
do.
us?
I was contacted by Lacey, of her proposal of the business that wants to conduct, and it's actually in an old schoolhouse. And I looked in the ordinance, I thought it would best fall under the farm home-based business accessory, which is a permitted to the single-family dwelling and the conditional use permit in this zoning district, which is exclusive Ag 2. And I have a letter from the township in support of it, and I also talked to one of the neighbors. And other than that, I had no input on it, as far as, and I guess this is a conditional use, and there are some parking requirements, that would be required around the building or on their driveway. I would, wouldn't allow parking on County H, things like that. I mean, that'd be one condition that might be a viable condition, but they have no interest in that being parked on that road anyways. But other than that, we haven't really had any conditions put on these types of businesses. We had one for a wedding venue, and they put like a condition on, after 10 o'clock it was quiet, or 11 o'clock it was quiet, and other than that, we haven't had any other type of conditions on it, so. And they are here to
Yep.
add to this too, so.
Lacey, Brandon, would you guys want to take a seat up here? Is there anything that you guys would like to add at this time?
I don't think so. I think Mark did pretty well. We're just looking to do something positive with the building and kind of restore it, and this is kind of our first step, so.
Yeah, it's a beautiful building sitting alone out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, okay. I'd open this up for public comment. If anybody would like to comment on this conditional use permit.
Mr. Chair, ma'am, Mr. and Mrs. Austin, where is exactly this located? I like historic buildings, so it'd be cool to see where that's
Sure, it's on County Road Y in Oliva.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you very much.
you're welcome.
Is there anyone that would wish to offer a public comment on this conditional use permit?
Mr. Chair, at this point, I'm going to abstain from any of this potential conflict of interest.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone that would like to offer a public comment? If not,
I
Mark,
can read the letter that.
that would be great.
Town of Albion, they had a meeting on March 15th, 2022. Brandon and Lacey Austin appeared before the Albion Town Board during its regular monthly meeting on March 8th, 2022, to request a conditional use permit for their property located at N46734 County Road I in the town of Albion. The Austins are proposing to operate a farmer's market out of a historic schoolhouse on their property, and may also be used as a rental space for small gatherings and host family life events. After careful consideration of the facts and circumstances, on May 11, 2021, passed a motion in favor of granting a conditional use to use the property as a farmer's market. So the township's in support. I'm not sure why the dates don't jive there, but I did speak with Verl Dietz and also Sherry Nelson, so.
Okay. Okay, thank you. If there's nobody else that wishes to comment, I will close the public hearing at 9:25, and I would entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion to approve.
Okay, thank you.
I'll second that.
Okay, Severson and Foltz. Any questions, discussion, any conditions that would like to be applied by the committee?
Mark, you said there was supposed to be some parking that needed to be...
For any business type, we have an ordinance for parking too. So based on the square footage of their building, they would be required to have a minimum of 8 parking spaces. And they have ample space around the building and also on their driveway. They have a pretty extensive driveway that goes back to this, or goes back to their home, but so I mean, if they wanted to put a condition, you would just want to probably reiterate no parking on County H, I guess, just for safety reasons.
Is it H or Y?
Or Y.
Y.
I'm sorry.
Because I hear H and I'm like,
Yeah,
this is County Road Y. I'm
it's
like,
Y,
I know where
it's
it is.
The county road there, put it there.
Yeah, I do make that.
So we have a motion to not allow parking on County Road Y. Okay. We have a second to that? Do we need a second to that? we will.
Because then you'll add it to the original.
Okay,
Second.
okay. So all in favor of adding that condition to the conditional use permit, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so that
And-
basically is amended.
And he abstained, right?
Correct, David abstained. And any other discussion?
Would that need a sanitary upgrade?
They could have porta potties type situations, you know, it'll have to be addressed, but I don't think it'd be a requirement to put in a full-blown septic system. They could have porta potties for that, so.
Okay.
Should the committee just speak in public comment time or wait for or we're there now? Yeah, we're there now. What
we're
size
there now.
parcel did you purchase with this property, or how big is the?
46 acres
Oh,
roughly.
okay.
Yeah, they own the whole farm. that's-
Inside the whole road.
Yeah, they
Inside the
own-
whole
Tiny
road.
spot
What
right-
was the
They own this
schoolhouse
whole entirety
name?
right here.
It was originally called District Number 4. like,
District Number
back in
4,
the
like-
late
Ah,
1800s,
okay.
And
Huh.
then they restructured it, and it was then Plainview. And actually, his dad went to school
Wow.
there, and his uncle.
Looks like it got some maintenance at least for you guys. It looks like the roof
Needs a lot of
is,
work.
needs a lot of work. Pictures
Yeah.
can
So
be
we're doing baby
deceiving.
steps, so
Yeah.
I don't have enough projects already, so.
Yeah.
To add another one.
No, that sounds good. Sounds really good.
Okay. Very good. Any other discussion? If not, I'll call for a final vote. All in favor of approving the conditional use permit with the condition we applied, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried, and this too will go to, this
No,
is, so you guys are
don't
good.
have to. They got it. And we'll mail you a copy of the permit after it's signed and processed, and then I guess here's your receipt from when you paid for it, but we'll make sure you get a copy, but you do have, it's approved, so.
Okay.
Perfect, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your help.
You're
Mark.
welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a good one.
Yeah.
Okay, next we'll move on to item number 9, which is a public hearing, to amend our zoning ordinance, chapters 3, 4, and 18. Mark, I think this is your,
Well, he needs to read the public
one?
hearing notice. of-
okay, we have
Okay.
public hearing notice.
Subdivision. So both of these? I
No,
read?
the one with 3, 4, and 18 on it
3, 4,
is where we're
okay.
at right now.
Okay. Notice of public hearing to the public. Please take notice that pursuant to statute, is that symbol? 59.69 2(3)E, semicolon, Wisconsin statute, I'm probably mumbling through these. The Trumple County Environment and Land Use Committee will hold a public hearing to make minor amendments to chapters 3, 4, and 18 of the Trumple County zoning ordinance. Please be further advised that this public hearing will be held on Wednesday, May 4th, 2022, at 9:15 a.m. in the county boardroom of the courthouse located at 36-245 Main Street, Whitehall, Wisconsin, 54773. Prior to the public hearing, copies of the proposed minor amendments may be viewed or obtained at the offices of the Trumple County Department of Land Management and the Trumple County Clerk at 36245 Main Street, Whitehall, Wisconsin, 54773. To request that a copy of these amendments be mailed, please contact the Department of Land Management at 715-538-1916 or email at mike.corman@county.trempealeau.wisconsin.us. The zoning ordinance amendments may also be assessed and viewed online at www.county.trempealeau.wisconsin.us. Written comments will be accepted by the Environment and Land Use Committee until May 3rd at 4:30 p.m. Comments may be emailed to Mark Carlson at county.trempealeau.wisconsin.us or mailed to the Department of Land Management, Post Office, Box 67, Whitehall, Wisconsin, 54773, but must be received no later than May 3rd, 2022 at 4:30 p.m. Trumple County Environment and Land Use Committee. By George Brandt.
Thank you, Randy. I don't know if I've called it the public hearing order yet, but it'll be 9:30, and we will, Mark, do you want to go over this? This is our second review of this.
Yeah, I guess we'll just start with chapter 3 and go along, or I guess. Chapter 3 is the general requirements, and there was a few changes that we wanted to propose just to kind of clean up some language and make it more clear. Of example, how the 100-foot of frontage was going to be measured, make sure it's measured at right angles to the property, just so it's consistent every time. Remove some language that was felt that wasn't being utilized anyways as far as the ordinance goes. And it's just some changes to the ordinance as far as And they're all highlighted in red on the, I believe you had a copy of that, and I have not received any public input on this at all. We've sent out information to every township. None of them have reached out and had any concerns on any of the chapters that are proposed, and no citizens have contacted me either.
Well, we do open this to public testimony, and we do have somebody who is registered to comment on this. Ed, would you like to?
Do I want me to sit there?
If you would, yeah, if you'd take a microphone here, Ed Melchetsky.
Either there or here.
Or up here. If you want to use this, you sure can too.
Hello, I'm Ed Malashevsky. What's going on is I want to sell some land down in the river bottoms, and I need to get a variance. And in 1980, Mark, did you receive a letter from Tom Shank, email?
Yes, I did.
Could you read that letter before I begin?
Sure. I got this from Tom yesterday. I was made aware of a meeting on May 2nd, 2022 to discuss proposed amendments to the zoning ordinance by Ed Malachevsky. His concerns with the ability to sell land east of the railroad tracks also affects the land owned by Daniel and Thomas Shank just south of the Malachevsky farm. Our situation would even be worse. If we were only able to sell to a neighboring landowner, we are bordered by Trumple County to the north and Shank's Riverview Farm to the south. This would leave us with only one logical buyer. If Shank's Riverview Farm purchased our farm east of the railroad tracks, they would have no logical buyers in the future as the river and railroad meet at the south end of their property. Our property has 2 houses, obsolete farm buildings, minimal tillable land, and a large amount of wetlands east of the railroad tracks. As a realtor and a licensed appraiser for 37 years, the most logical way to sell, the property east of the tracks would be as a minimum of 2 parcels. The ranch house on 2 acres is already divided by the driveway and fencing and has a private well and septic, and the older 2-story house with outbuildings and the balance of the land is a hobby farm. Our neighbors to the south would have little use for more houses, obsolete farm buildings, and wetlands. The newest building on this property was built in 1966, before the road frontage ordinance was put into effect. Back in the 1980s, I knew this ordinance was in effect, but no one in the county was monitoring it, and properties without frontage were being sold. Because of seeing this problem, I was in contact with land management, asking who was supposed to be monitoring it and why the ordinance was put into effect in the first place. They had no answers as to who was supposed to be monitoring the ordinance. However, they said the ordinance was put into effect because the county and townships were responsible for providing emergency services to county property owners. Properties with no road frontage and a long easement could make it difficult to provide emergency services. The land east of State Road 93 and the railroad has had good access to the highway. These access roads have been in place for likely over 100 years, long before the county ordinance was published. We have three well-developed access driveways. The land east of the railroad tracks has good access, should be grandfathered exempted from this ordinance. Dated May 2nd, Thomas Shank, and then actual Daniel Shank signed also.
Okay, with that information, Tom did tell me, he said back in 1980, when this law came into effect, or ordinance, or whatever you want to call it, he says, what Tom told me, in Trumple County, when you buy land, you have rights. And he said, when you want to sell land and you can't, because of a county ordinance, they're taking part of your rights away. And Tom says, if you're in violation of some law, he said, that's fine, but if you're not in violation, he said, they should be paying you for taking it right away. Okay, back in 1960, my dad brought 176 acres. That was a lone farm. It had 40 acres down river bottoms. And 2 years later, he brought a second farm that adjoined it. That made our parcel bigger. In 2004, I brought the neighboring farm. That made our river bottoms bigger yet. So there's probably 100 and some acres down there. And it floods. The reason why I want to sell this land is 3 out of the last 10 years, it flooded where I could not plant my crops. I just settled a lawsuit a couple months ago. 2 cattle got hit on the highway 3 miles down the road. They got spooked that night, and we no longer pasture cattle down there. And I was notified by the DNR, Scott Stickapitch, that I could go in a program and they'd allow me $154,000. I could not plant any more row crops down there on this 65 acres. There's 29 acres of crop ground that I want to sell. And he says I'd have to leave it in hay, and it'd go right in the deed that I can't plant no row crops. Well, I was denied that because they want an easement to get across from the railroad tracks. And the railroad company does not give easements, they only give permits to cross railroad tracks. So I struck out there. I struck out planting 3 out of 10 years. Pasturing the cattle, liability issues, it's not worth it. And, geez, there's one other thing, if I think of it, I'll remind you. But now, in 1960, when my dad brought this first farm, there's 40 acres I would like to sell at least, belonging to the first farm. Now, in 2005 and in 2012, I brought 2 parcels east of the railroad tracks, 2 miles north of my farm, right along the highway. The Board of Adjustment claims that since I brought the whole tract, I did not create a parcel. So it was okay, I didn't need a variance to buy it. There was no issue. Well, I would like my lawyer to take over now and let her do the talking. I think she knows a little bit more than all of us on what's going on.
Well, I can give a summary of it. So I'm Karina O'Brien, and I'm representing Ed Malashevsky. And I'm just here to explain why we're proposing the language that we have put together in this amendment. So what's in italicized is what I believe was going to be changed or accepted, and I do apologize that I wasn't here earlier. But in the red is what we're proposing. And the reason why we're proposing it, as Mr. Malashevsky was summarizing, is he's been through a whole process here trying to get a variance. So in December of 2020, he filed for a variance petition because he does not have any way to get frontage. He has that property next to the railroad. And if we go to the map that I have, I'm just trying to give an overview of what his situation is in,
It's up there.
yep. In orange, it's highlighted, and yellow is what he was looking to divide and sell because of various issues, flooding, ineffective farming, so on and so forth. So we have now been before the Board of Adjustment twice. First, they denied it due to an incorrect theory of law. Then we went to an appeal process, we went back, they've denied it again. And their basis for the denial, I have it here, but what was discussed a lot during the meeting was the purpose of this frontage requirement and the fact that that the county wanted to avoid landlocked parcels. My understanding of that was more on if you have a residence or you have an issue with ambulance service or something like that, how are people the fire department, how are they going to get access to the real estate? That's why they're trying to avoid creation of landlocked parcels. However, here, this parcel is landlocked by the railway. It's not because my client did anything such as purchased a bunch of property and then sell off the pieces, left it himself an island out there. He is blocked by the railway. He has no way of getting frontage on 93 except for he has access granted by the railway. The railroad will not give him a permanent easement. He has access, but no permanent easement. And this is not the only person who has this problem. There are several owners, and I believe you were reading Mr. Shank's letter. So he's another party, and I'm sure if we went to the rest of the neighbors, they would realize what kind of a problem it is. But for this railway, Mr. Malashevsky would be able to divide and sell that because he has the required frontage there, but for the railway. And this is, again, the problem that pretty much everybody on that side of the railway is going to have that issue. And so we're looking for you to fix it because where we're at right now, anyone else who goes for a variance petition with the Board of Adjustments will be denied based on how they have treated Mr. Malashevsky, because they're saying he has permitted uses. Well, everybody else has the current use of their property, they just can't use it the way that they would like to. As Mr. Shank detailed, as Mr. Malashevsky detailed, they're not trying to do anything crazy. All they want to do is be able to carve out a parcel or divide it, and they're not changing the nature of what they have. So we wanted to make a very limited exception to this requirement, which is that any lot that does not have a public highway frontage solely due to the location of a railway should be exempt from this requirement. It's just carving out a small exception for those people who don't have frontage due to the fact that the railway is blocking them from getting access to the road.
Okay. Thank you for your comments. With Corp Counsel sitting next to me, it would be interesting to get his opinion on how this has been written and what it might mean.
Sure. I was involved in the second time around with the Board of Adjustment, so I'm familiar with the situation. Obviously, the railroad goes through the entire county in some form or fashion, so there are going to be a number of individuals or homeowners that may be impacted in some form. The one thing I will respectfully disagree in regards to Ms. O'Brien's characterization is that all others will be denied a variance based on this. Board of Adjustment looks at each individual situation independently, and based on the facts before them, they make a determination based on the facts before them. So just wanted to clarify that. In regards to the situation, I mean, a couple of concerns. I mean, one of them I think was raised is that emergency services. You know, this one may not allow for a house to be built on it, but that doesn't mean the next one won't allow for that. And so then if you're allowed to build a house without access, and I know that sounds a little ridiculous because you can't get to your house, but then the emergency services aspect of it is a concern as well. So I agree, one size is not necessarily going to fit all. Can there be some kind of a leeway provided? Certainly. Having just received this just now, I can't tell you that this may or may not fix whatever the problem everybody's experiencing. That might be something that needs a further discussion at another meeting or some further research or whatever the case might be. Not saying it's not appropriate, but having just received it, it just needs some additional conversation and maybe some looking at it a little closer.
Okay. Thank you. Let's see, is there anyone else that wishes to publicly comment regarding this? Chapters 3, 4, and 18.
You have an easement now through the railroad, correct? No.
The railroad will not give nobody easements.
Limited access.
Permitted access, but, okay, so is that permitted
limit-
access
limit, yeah.
transferable to the next one?
The railroad company can take away any driveway at any time they want, if it's unsafe for the railroad. That's including Petrick Park.
Is there anyone else that wishes to publicly testify? Go ahead, Ed.
Now, like I said, back in 1960, we could just take that abstract and,
It wasn't your turn.
oh, excuse me, pardon?
I think.
There, my microphone works.
Go ahead, Dave.
I agree you have a problem. I think we need to try to find some way to help you. My reading of this and looking out in a wider expanse, I think this needs to be narrowed down some way. I just got this too, so I agree that we need to try to do something for you, with you, whatever. But I look at this real quick and say, okay, where would this apply by the railroad over by Blair? If, as broadly as this seems to be worded to me, it's potentially creating another problem someplace else. And I think we need to work on it.
Go ahead, Rick.
Now, instead of selling 65 acres or 67, what I was gonna sell, I could sell a smaller portion. I could take the abstract from the first farm my dad brought and just sell that. The Board of Adjustment said the reason why I was able to buy those 2 farms in '05 and 2012 was because I brought the whole works down there. I didn't create a parcel. Well, so technically, when my dad brought that second farm, he should have had it on somebody else's name, and then we could do it. But since it's all under my name, I created a bigger parcel, which I kind of shot myself in the foot. But I didn't know this problem was going to arise.
Sure. No. Okay.
Kelly?
Go ahead, Randy.
But if you sell a portion of that to create a driveway for that other lot, then the remaining, it's just going to push the problem to the other portion. And then, I don't know, the railroad's not going to grant another additional crossing.
They'll have 2 ways to get down there. I'll give them a right-of-way to get down there, right across from my parlor. Right now, I've got 5 driveways crossing the railroad tracks, 5 permitted driveways. I was offered by Elk Rod Gun Club $162,000 for that land, which come to $2,417 an acre. It was appraised in May of '21 by Compeer for $4,850 an acre. Elk Rod Gun Club says the reason why we'll give you $162,000 is because that's what the county will give us for our land. So we'll take that money and give it to you for your 65 acres. Well, I wasn't willing to take a half of what it was appraised for. Usually land is sold for what it's appraised for or more. And, that was that's one reason why I do not want to sell to the neighbors to the south, is because of, now the Board of Adjustment says, why are you doing this? And I said, I want to take this money and buy efficient land for farming. I said, there's 29 acres on 7 fields, and when it floods, the fields get smaller, the slough holes get bigger, and it's very inefficient farming with our machinery nowadays. And they said, well, you're doing it for monetary reasons. Well, in the United States, 95% of the businesses are doing it for monetary reasons. And then on the same token, there's plenty of driveways to get down there. And if I give them a right-of-way on my property, there shouldn't be a problem. It's all floodplain, so they can't build a house down there.
Right.
It would be either used for, they could plant trees, they could use it for hunting. The Board of Adjustment said, you're doing it for monetary reasons. You have other options to do with this land. Well, I told them about the cattle. They said I could pasture it. And then they said I could farm it. Well, I told them about it's not effective farming nowadays. And they didn't buy none of that. So that's why I'm here today, to get this changed. So I want to keep the farm rolling for the next 40 years. And one way to do it is get rid of the junk land and go for efficient. And that's one of the reasons why the small farmers aren't around anymore. They're not efficient, so they're going by the wayside. So I'm just getting rid of a small portion of land that's very inefficient on a farm.
And we understand that you're gonna have to review the language. The language that we are proposing is supposed to be very limited to this railway issue, and that's why it's only for those parcels that do not have public highway frontage solely due to the railway. If they have way to have public highway frontage in another matter, it shouldn't relate to those who have subdivided their land and are sold off without reserving easements for their end parcel. It's really just focused on the railway issue, because except for the railway, Mr. Malashevsky would have the necessary frontage.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Oh, I do apologize. I wanted to clarify one other issue, is you're talking about houses being built and all that other stuff. There are already houses. This is already a problem. This has been a problem since the ordinance was created because the railway was already there long before the ordinance, and there were houses there already. So something in the county needs to change in order to address this for the people.
Sure. Okay. At this point, I'm getting the feeling that we have to do a little bit more homework on this. Potentially take a look at the wording here, explore any other implications that we might find from it, and revisit this. That's my gut feeling. Mike, would you have any comments?
Yeah, a couple things. I mean, we have this chapter up for comment and review before the committee today. You could approve it as we've submitted today, and then instruct staff to go back and research this specific issue and bring that information back at a future meeting. Otherwise, I mean, you could push back the revision to the entire ordinance, but if you want to keep these other revisions, get them into place, you could adopt that today and then revisit this issue at a next meeting with staff research.
Okay.
And the other thing, and I think that's a wise idea, just under the circumstances, gives the committee a little bit more time to kind of digest the information. The other part of it is I don't deny that this is probably a widespread issue across the county. So having a public hearing on this particular language change might not be a bad idea, because then you get other landowners who have similar types of issues coming in, presenting what their troubles are, and that might give this committee then some additional information regarding what might work and what might not work. Just a suggestion.
Okay. Okay, so what are the wishes of the committee?
Mr. Milashevsky, do you have a time frame that you are, if we don't get this done in a month, it damages you, or is there room to work with this time-wise?
We're gonna plant crops this year.
Okay.
I started a year and a half ago, and here I am.
Working through process. Okay. I think I would agree with Dave's sentiments earlier when I think we can find a workable solution here. I do think some more research on specifically, this 3.03 would probably be recommended. What are the wishes of the committee?
I guess because the other chapters are linked in, this would kind of like put the brakes on all of it. I would make a motion to go ahead and approve and then do the research and discuss.
Okay. So we have a motion by Randy Severson.
Mr. Chair, as a county board member, like our general standing county board member, I do what Mr. Larson said, I think, and what he said, I think, is a good balance. So, because I do feel for Mr. Chelsky in this situation.
Okay. So we have a motion from Mr. Severson to move forward with the rest of, with the ordinances revisions, with the expectation of staff doing further research on this.
Andy, are you willing to put a
And we're coming
timeframe
back
on the
next month?
research of this?
No, I don't feel qualified to put it, because I have no idea what kind of office work it's going to take.
Okay.
He's gonna plan for this year, whatever,
Right,
so
yep.
you can settle now until.
Okay. So do we have a second for that motion?
I'll second.
All right, Stacy Klein. Any other discussion on this matter? On the rest of this is one specific issue within the ordinances. Is there any discussion on any of the others?
Are we talking the whole package or just?
Chapter 3, 4, and 18 is what we're on right now.
Yeah, I found it, yeah. I have an issue with wording on one page.
And so do I, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so, David, why don't you go first since you
Okay,
spoke
page
first.
151, the public sports complex definition. I don't think that that's with an apostrophe S is appropriate language for an official document. I think that wording should be changed in some way. See, if you read on, you can't use that because that doesn't work with purpose, or something along, whose purpose is, or that's my 3 years of high school grammar.
The apostrophe S.
It is an apostrophe S, yeah, and I have an issue with that use of that word in there, rather than the word, if you use the word whose, or that's one word I'm thinking of offhand, would make it more appropriate language in my term.
A little bit cleaner.
Clean, yeah. For which the purpose, there's another one, yeah.
Okay. Mr. Foltz, I believe you had.
I
other-
have a problem with, on the chapter 4.
Why don't it be easier to go through each of these chapters one by one and jump all over the place?
Sure, well,
Yep.
let's,
Yep, that's fine.
let's go through 3.
Are we finished?
Yes.
You're free to stay or go.
Okay.
We have heard your message.
Okay.
Okay.
Loud and clear.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chapter 3. Yeah, start with, we'll go bottom to top. So Mark, would you want to go through these changes with these folks? Is there,
Well, the changes are in red, I guess.
Yeah.
That's basically what the changes are proposed in each one of these chapters. And chapter 3 may or may not have some other language added to it based on what we just heard.
sure, and that can be to review yet. Are there any other questions, comments on the changes in chapter 3? If not, we'll look at chapter 4. Any specific changes or issues anyone would like to highlight in chapter 4?
Mr. Chair, I do as, B, chapter 4, 4.4, in the bed and breakfast portion, there's, in red, it says 8, but there shall be no more than 4/8.
No, it's 8. I mean, where, I
It's
didn't cross it off right. I guess you
I-
cross the 4 off and it's gonna be 8.
Okay, because I wanted to
So
clarify, because it
that's,
just like, that didn't make sense to me.
Sure. Okay.
That's
just
based
wanted
on the
to-
definition at the state level, what a bed and breakfast is.
I just wanted to make that clear
Clear.
for everyone, because
Yep.
it wasn't marked.
Right, yeah, that's been brought up before, and I tried to edit it, and for some reason, it wasn't working for me, so we'll just take,
All right.
once we approve it, it'll be 8
We'll fix
rooms
it.
available.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions in chapter 4 that anyone has note of? Mostly wording changes, it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, we felt the tourist rooming houses should be addressed, because that's getting to be a pretty popular
Yep.
thing.
Yep.
So a lot of that language was taken from other counties' language and/or some state language, just to kind of try to address them to be able to use that for their property, and then cross out zoning and put environment and land use on the committee reference.
One comment back on the tourist rooming houses is that previously we were doing those via a conditional use permit. The state doesn't allow us to do that anymore. We need to do it by a license. So this creates a licensing requirement that we just handle administratively. So if this gets approved, one of the actions at a future meeting will be to create, amend the, our code of, or schedule of fees to create a license fee for this. But this is one of these things that, a regulation that the state said, we don't want to see this regulated by conditional use, but you can create a licensing. So it's a different tool, so you don't have a public hearing, and you just handle it administratively.
So is the licensing based on the sanitary size or number of rooms? Because that's how your building permits are
I think we have language in here that previously we didn't have any regulation on septic systems tied to these type of facilities. I think somewhere in there it does mention septics or septic size, right? That the number of, the septic system has to meet the number of rooms.
Under B, it says must meet uniform building code and sanitary provisions. And I don't know if we were looking at specifically having a license, but I mean, they have to be licensed by the health department, they have to be licensed by the state. And if we just wanted proof of that, then it would be a permitted use, or we want to create a whole new other licensing fee, I guess, but.
Okay. Is there any other questions within Chapter 4, things that should be discussed from the committee? If not, I would move on to Chapter 18, and we can go through that and do the same thing. Any corrections, changes, questions?
Back on 4, Chapter 4, I just had a question regarding the recreational vehicles. Because I know I have seen places where they must store them, so this is that not applicable to
No,
this?
we're kind of trying to,
Or is that what you're trying?
we're looking at people, before they had a limitation of using it for recreational purposes for only 3 months in a calendar year. And we understand that some people, instead of building a cabin, they'll pull in a camper and leave it there for greater than, this kind of allows that, and we're kind of requiring a land use permit to site it and have it meet all the requirements of a structure. But storing something on your, next to your garage or your shed wouldn't require anything additional, so.
Yeah, and I think what I've seen is where people, they must offer to store for their neighbors or something else. They
Yeah,
have
I mean, that's
multiple.
another area
Yeah.
that might be addressed down the road where, you know, that's kind of a business type activity where people are putting 10 of them in their back.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sometimes.
I've seen a couple of those, but nothing that really warranted. You know, that might be another change down the road, but they have to be zoned something differently to do that, you know. Right now, we look at it as just sitting there as being stored, you know, we don't.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I just noticed that this past fall and over the winter, there was one place that was on a major highway, you could see it plain as day, you know, they had like 4 of them there. But they're gone now. So, but I mean, that's something that, this here is strictly for, say you have 100 acres and you don't want to build a cabin, you just want to drag a camper in there, which campers are, and they would have to have some provisions for waste treatment too, you know, pump their tank or have a porta potty or, you know, we want to address all that too, so.
Okay, thank you. Anything in Chapter 18? Looks like some definitions.
Sounded like you wanted to change, because I'll probably have to, or the sports arena, change it, a sports facility for which the purpose is that the language you'd want, or?
That sounds good.
That
Yeah.
works, yeah, yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Revision there. Any other questions, changes?
I just have a question. For tiny house, would you list actual dimensions with that?
Well, let me see, where is that here? I mean, we've been looking at tiny houses as just any other, like permitted, like any size house would be, you know. And it has to be UDC code. I guess we're just putting that in there as.
Page 154.
That, I mean, I guess, yeah, I mean, I don't know what, you know, I've never seen anywhere where there's a specific square footage would be a tiny house, and this is not a tiny house, I guess. I mean, I didn't specifically come up with that definition, but, I mean, it's, the stress is it has to be built to uniform dwelling code, you know, because there's been proposals of properties with numerous of these things on there, like a little RV park, and I said, no, it has to be treated as a dwelling. Basically, we look at a tiny house as a dwelling. Regardless of the size, it gets permitted as a dwelling.
That word gets used, has a lot of different meanings to a lot of different people. A lot of times, they mean a park model camper when they use the word tiny house. But then sometimes people say, well, I want to build a 400 square foot house. I want it small. Well, yeah, you can do that as long as you build it to the Uniform Dwelling Code. So this is kind of creating a definition. This won't fix that usage of the term in the general public, but at least we have a legal basis that some, and keep in mind, some communities, though, they do have a minimum single-family house size, and usually that's greater than 400 square foot, because usually a camping unit is 400 square feet or less, so some communities will have this, but we don't currently have that, and it at least gives people an option for affordable housing if they want a smaller house and spend less materials, that they can build something as long as it meets the Uniform Dwelling Code.
Is there a point to, maybe putting a maximum size to be referred to as a tiny house?
Mark, any thoughts?
400 square feet, as Mike said.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you want to add it to that, or just not have,
Because otherwise it's so ambiguous, you could never.
yeah, it is. I mean, I agree.
Yeah.
Because that's what campgrounds go by tax citation. If it's over 400 square feet, I believe it can be taxed. In campgrounds.
Yeah, we could put that on there, or, I mean, I guess if it has to be in there for legally, otherwise just don't have a separate definition for a separate type of house. I mean, that's,
Right.
but if it needs to be in there for some legal standpoint, I mean, we could always put X amount of square footage or less, 400 square footage or less, or just not have it in there.
Rick, do you have a comment on that?
If the dwelling code is going to be applicable regardless of the size, I guess creating a definition for a tiny house doesn't seem to get us anywhere. Whereas just making it applicable to any, I don't know what word you want to use, residence or whatever the case might be, that's not otherwise defined as a camper or a whatever. That way you're taking out, because I do agree, looking at this, I come to you and I want a permit for something. Well, what is small in size? I could argue that, 399 square feet, that doesn't apply, because that's so you know where I'm going with it. So my thought is, if it's not going to get us anywhere by creating this definition, because I don't know if there's specific regulations that relate to a tiny house other than the Uniform Dwelling Code.
I'm not aware of that. I mean, we look at, from a zoning standpoint, the lot size has to be the minimum lot size in any township, and it has to meet UDC code, and it has to have a private septic system, and all that, there's a 5,000 square foot house would have.
Sure. Is there a definition, I guess I didn't even look, for a regular size house?
Well, they might have a dwelling, I guess.
I'm just wondering what differentiates a tiny house from a regular dwelling.
It seems like they're one and the same.
I mean, if the codes are going to apply to both of them equally.
This is mentions about one family, a dwelling unit provides or is intended to provide living quarters, is what the dwelling unit definition is.
I think where this started was the GT building trades class had started building these tiny homes, and then they found out that there was no place to go with them, and that they did require standards, and I think that's how the
Yeah, a
whole.
lot of it came from that, where,
Yeah.
And some UDC requirements.
And then also the nationwide surge in people looking
Yeah.
at tiny homes
Especially
and,
with the prices now, they cheaper to build that.
Yeah.
They should see more of that come on, I think, now.
And again, I'm not saying you can't do it, I didn't know if there was a difference between the two, or why we needed to differentiate. That was the only thing I was curious about.
I don't think there's a difference between one dwelling unit from the next. We look at it as a dwelling unit,
Right.
but that's my opinion on it.
but eliminating, or maybe that term needs to be incorporated, so, because I think that is, a popular catchphrase, and people, if tiny homes is nowhere in the ordinance, I think people are gonna,
I mean, it might
look
come
for
up,
it.
but I mean, it's a term that's thrown out there all the time now. It's
Yeah.
tiny house, but
Could
I've
you,
never, I mean, I've seen tiny houses that were 200 square feet.
Yeah.
Who would want to live in a
I know.
200 square foot house? And then,
Could you, under the definition of dwelling unit, could you just add on there, including tiny homes?
yeah, I mean, we can do that. yeah.
Just a thought. I don't know.
So, yeah. I think that would work.
So put that under dwelling unit, including 20,
And the only reason I suggest that is then there's no misunderstanding from an individual that if I have a tiny home, it's still considered a dwelling unit, therefore it needs to comply with all
Right,
requirements.
It directly addresses the issue and just stacks on with our other dwelling unit code.
okay.
Again, just a suggestion.
No.
You guys deal with this more than I do on a day-to-day basis, so.
Any other comments, questions, discussion on Chapter 18 revisions? Okay. I do have a public registration form from Kevin Adams, supervisor, to register in favor but not testify, noted, approving these ordinance revisions. Do we have we don't have a motion on the floor yet currently. Would someone want to entertain, I would entertain a motion.
Well, you got
Wait.
chapter 24 yet, too.
Well, that's
Well,
a separate.
Oh, that's right, you're right, yeah, you're right,
Randy
yeah.
did make a motion
You did.
Yes.
And we,
to,
there was no second to that motion.
Did you second?
Yeah.
yeah,
Stacy
Stacy
did.
seconded it.
Yeah, so we do
Yes.
have a motion on the floor.
And it was to approve and then to discuss
That,
Ed's
Yeah, to go
issue
back
in
and
the future.
research.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
because that, I think that requires some technical research, not discussion. Yeah.
would we, so do we have some other revisions that have been made
Oh, those
since
changes.
that motion was made? Do we
I
need to
can
do a
amend.
friendly amendment?
Okay.
I can amend the motion I made to include these updates or
Okay.
or
Stacy, do
changes.
you second that? Okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, I would call to a vote. Do we have to do voice votes for this?
You can do voice vote, but you have to vote on the amendment first and then go back to the original. and then
Okay.
do the original on that.
So, okay, so we have the amendment. All in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, amendment carried. Now we have the original amendment, which was to approve these with the revisions and instruct staff to come back on 3.03 and review the language and look at what our options and
Wait.
what implications we might have.
Just wait, I'm confused, Rick, because we had a motion to approve, and then staff would go on and look at the other issues, and then I made a friendly amendment to that to include that, so to me, we only have one motion.
The changes that were discussed regarding that's was changed and then the tiny house definition were changed.
Wording change.
Those things are an amendment to the original motion. 'cause-
Okay, so then we need a motion and a second to that.
Correct, which,
When we had Randy and Stacy again.
correct. They did this
Oh,
motion for the
okay,
amendments.
I was adding
Yep.
it in there as a friendly
Yes,
amendment, but you
yes.
wanted two separate motions.
Just to be safe,
Okay,
because
I
it's
got
an
it.
It'll be
It's
clean
changed.
that way, so.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So now, we have so do we need to do individual voice vote for ordinance or?
I don't believe so. I think you
Okay,
do that
so
by voice vote.
all in favor of approving the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried, and that will end that public hearing.
And there will be a resolution for you all to sign.
Okay, thank you. Our next item on the agenda is item number 10, which is a public hearing on amendment of subdivision ordinance, chapter 24, and the council codicil of ordinances. Randy, would
Are
you?
you calling the hearing to order?
Oh, I'll call the hearing to order at 10:15.
Notice of public hearing to the public. Please take notice that pursuant to, is that a symbol for statute?
Section.
Section 59.69, 2, 3E, Wisconsin statutes, the Trumple County Environment and Land Use Committee will hold a public hearing to make minor amendments to Chapter 24, Subdivision Ordinance of the Trumple County Code of Ordinances. Please be further advised that this public hearing will be held on Wednesday, May 4th, 2022 at 9:10 a.m. in the County Boardroom of the Courthouse located at 36245 Main Street, Whitehall, Wisconsin, 54773. Prior to the public hearing, copies of the proposed minor amendments to Chapter 24 may be viewed or obtained at the offices of the Trumple County Department of Land Management and the Trumple County County Clerk. To request that a copy be mailed, please contact the Department of Land Management at 715-538-1916 or email at mark.carlson@county.trempealeau.wisconsin.us. The ordinance may also be accessed and viewed online at www.county.trempealeau.wisconsin.us. Written comments will be accepted by the Environment and Land Use Committee until May 3rd, 2022 at 4:30 p.m. Comments can be emailed to Mark Carlson at county.trempealeau.wisconsin.us or mailed to the Department of Land Management, Post Office Box 67, Whitehall, Wisconsin, 54773, but must be received no later than May 3rd, 2022 at 4:30 p.m. Trumple County Environment and Land Use Committee by George Bratt.
Thank you, Mr. Severson. Mark, do you have an overview that you can offer us?
I guess this one was, kind of instrumented by Joel Nelson, our surveyor. Some of the minor changes that he was proposing to the subdivision ordinance, as noted in red. And, like some of the documents that he reviews, he's got, some additional items that should be on the certified survey map. And then some mention to the highway right-of-way, for highway right-of-way conveyances. Other than that, that's the changes he had proposed.
Is there anyone who wishes to offer public comment on this? Any other questions from the committee? Is there anyone who wishes to publicly comment on this revision of Chapter 24? Any committee questions, feedback, clarifications? Is there anyone who wishes to offer public comment to this revision? If not, I will close public comment and call for a motion on the proposed changes and revisions. I'm looking for a motion.
Sorry, I'll make that motion.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Severson?
I'll second it.
Second, Riley Foltz. Any other discussion from the committee? If not, I'll call this to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. And close public hearing at 10:20. Next on our agenda is to appoint the appointment of committee members to the Solar Farm Study Committee. Discussion, possible action.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At the previous county board meeting, the county board created a solar farm study committee to research and look into the issues tied to the growing interest in the development of solar farms in the county. And we had 2 county board supervisors in that resolution, along with 5 other citizen members. I think Kellen Nelson, Kellen, you showed an interest in being there, and I think Riley did as well for the two supervisors. We had interest from John Scaug, Kurt Motor, as citizen members, as well as Randy Severson and Tony Munson. And then there is a request to involve Riverland Energy, a representative from them, and Scott Hayes from that organization is willing to be a part of that. So that would make a total of 7, meeting the numbers in the resolution.
Okay. And the intention of the study is not to eliminate others that would like to attend. If anyone, county board, citizens.
We would post these meetings just like any other committee meeting.
Yep, so this is intended to create an open dialogue and to determine the, I'm trying to choose the right word here.
The way forward.
Well, to find out what the implications might be for the citizens of our county, the county itself, different municipalities within the county, and find out what those effects might be, so we can better understand those. Okay, so do we need a motion on that? We pretty well to appoint those members?
Wouldn't hurt to confirm that
Okay.
that the committee's in favor of that.
Mr. Chair?
Go
I
ahead.
would suggest that committee also look at how do we contact state people who are probably going to be in charge of these things to find some type of financial return to the county and for what the county's giving up, that be part of the committee, what the committee looks at.
Focus. Very good. Yeah. Okay, so I have a committee list here of Scott Hayes, Kellen Nelson, Riley Foltz, Kurt Motor, John Scaug, Randy Severson, and Tony Munson, being the 7 who will be responsible to meet and research this in conjunction with many others, hopefully. So, with that in mind, I'd look for a motion to create this committee.
Make the motion to approve the committee, or create the committee.
Okay.
I'll second that.
First Larson, second Foltz. Any other discussion on the matter? If not, I'll call it to a voice vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And we have a new committee. Next on the agenda, item 12, Conservation Operations Report, discussion, possible action. Haley is here.
I am here. I'm Haley, Haley Passo from the DLM department. I'm the Conservation Engineering Specialist. So I wanted to give you guys an update of what's going on the conservation side of DLM. So we just had the tree and, well, I shouldn't say had. We are in the process of the tree and shrub sale. We had the main pickup on Thursday and Friday last week, and that went over really well. I just got a call earlier today that the balsam fir are finally getting delivered. The nursery was having an issue getting them out of the ground because of the very late spring we're having. So it's been kind of a rolling thing with the tree and shrub sale. So those will be hopefully handed out this week, and then I will have a final summary with kind of a budget summary and everything on that for next month's meeting then, since it's still going on. And then, so with that, then we're going to go into the conservation practices that I am in the process of designing. I have just a couple more to design and getting those all bid out. We have 16, I believe it is, total projects at the moment. I have a list of them if you guys want to know a little bit more about them, but they range from a stream bank protection project to critical area, cattle crossings, grass waterways, kind of things in between. We are partnering with NRCS for a couple of them, and we are finishing up one from last year because of the weather. They just couldn't finish it, so we're finishing that up here this once spring decides to let go, which I think it's finally letting go soon. So those are in the process, getting work done. One should be starting actually here by the end of the week, one of the grass waterways, so it'll be rolling season here pretty soon, and you'll be getting more updates on cost share payments and everything here in the next couple months. So Next is the nutrient management plans. Rick in our office is working on getting those all in. He is in the process of working with the, local professionals, the certified crop advisors, tech college to get all the nutrient management plans in. He sent out a handful of letters. They are coming in. He's getting those all squared away and looked over so that we can then report those to DATCAP here. I believe it is in June. So they're working on those. If you have more questions on that, that would be a question for Rick. I don't deal specifically with those. I can do little hints, but not much else on that aspect of it. But right now it looks like we are on par to exceed last year's number of plans and numbers of acres that were reported to DATCAP. So that's a good thing to look and keep increasing from there. Another thing that will be coming here is WAVE testing. So WAVE stands for Water Action Volunteer Program. That is where we go out into, I believe it is 5 different streams throughout Trempealeau County, and we take baseline monitoring to get kind of what the stream temperature is, the DO or the dissolved oxygen within the stream. We look for what I call bugs, so the aquatic species within there, just to kind of get a baseline of what the streams are looking like, and if we can see any changes. We have data from that from the last, I think it's like 6 to 8 years. So it's a really good program to keep working on so we can keep seeing if, conservation practices are definitely increasing and helping our streams and our trout streams from there. So it's a great opportunity for anyone, and I'm always looking for more volunteers. If anyone wants to, if they have a stream in their backyard, we can definitely get something set up to do that wave monitoring. So it's always a good aspect to get more people involved in that. Other things is we do have a DLM Facebook page. I don't know if you guys are following yet, but if you are not, then you should. I try to at least post once a week, if not more, kind of different topics of what's going on within the department or throughout the state. I know I've posted a little bit on like the avian bird flu, just kind of keeping things updated and, just different topics going on. So if you could follow, share, do all the jazz with Facebook, that would be great. Get it out there, get the word further out. Otherwise, all the reporting that was due in April was done for DATCAP and DNR, and our grants were all applied for, which were due April 15th as well. So big things were happening in April, got all finished up, and we're just gonna start with construction season and get rolling. So it'll be a good year. That's what I have. If anyone has any questions, I know it went fast. I'm a quick talker, so.
It's a lot of information there. Any questions?
It is. Yes, Tony.
Well, the avian flu system does like Golden Plump, or I shouldn't call them Golden Plump anymore, whatever they're, pilgrims.
Yep.
Do they have a termination plan in place? Because I've read on some egg pages or whatever, some bigger egg farms down south.
Yep.
That when they terminate these flocks of millions or whatever birds, it creates a great stench, and where to dispose of them? I mean, I'm just asking a question.
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't have an answer to that. I would have to reach out to Pilgrims to see what their, if they have one and what it is. I know that they have been talking to a couple of their contractors or the people that are holding their farms, and they are increasing their security and their biosecurity. I know that a couple different flocks. Yeah.
I'm a contractor or work through a contractor through Genio Farms, and usually we have like I was saying, I have that contracting background. On a smaller scale, we have a compost, and like you're saying, us as farmers or contractors, we are upping our game.
Yeah.
So as that my experience and actually being in that field, we are. And speaking of that, it gives us nightmares if we're losing money if that happens.
Yes.
So,
Yep.
So believe me, we know all about it.
Yes. So I'm glad everyone is keeping up to date on that.
To add
yeah.
to that, I've been notified by other growers that they cannot really go anywhere. They have to be stayed put because of this. They don't want it to travel.
Correct.
On-site, buried on-site.
Yes.
To my understanding.
Compost that we bury.
Okay. Gotcha. Yep.
Okay.
So it's a big topic.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Any other questions, comments for Haley? Very good.
Okay.
Well done.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Can't wait to wait, or apparently my words are not, can't wait to work with you guys more in the future, so.
All right, thank you, Haley. Next, item 13, cost share payment requests discussion. I don't think we have any this week.
No, we don't today. Typically, our process, when we do have cost share payments, we'll put it on the back of your agenda that we have at your seat. We don't have any today, so, but that's where you will find those in the future.
Okay, very good. We have next, item 14, DLM Director Operations Report.
Yeah, we've had this recently, or within the last month or so, we've had some hiring. Our seasonal employees, Mark Hegelson started in the beginning of April at Petrick Park. We've also had Mark Marsalik start at the park and help us out with the tree and shrub program. Those are limited term employees. Our summer intern, Blake Johnson, who worked with us last year, he starts May 16th. And then our county conservationist, who will be a new employee starting May 30th. That person is Charmaine Anderson, who's originally from Melrose, Wisconsin. She currently works for the DNR in the state of Illinois, and so we're happy to have her on board. And so May 30th is her first day. So we look forward, and then with that hire, we will be fully staffed in the department, so we're very happy about that. And then, yeah, that's great. And then one other thing, as a director, one of the things I did, finished up in the beginning of April, was stay interviews. A stay interview essentially, it's not a performance evaluation, it's an interview with each employee, discussing with them essentially how we can make the work environment for them a better place. And that's kind of one of the new things organizations are doing to help retain employees. And so completed that in the beginning of April, and it was very worthwhile, and we'll be doing that once a year going forward in the Department of Land Management. That's all I have.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. Next, we have our Board of Adjustments appointments, and we received...
I don't have any written names. We did talk to, well, Randy is here. Randy's an alternate on BOA. And then, Mark, who was the other person that was, what was that?
Terry Coxlane's going off. He agreed even to do it again.
So he would agree to do it again. If the committee has other names they would like to suggest for those positions, you can share that. We can forward those on to the chair. I believe the county board chair appoints those, I believe, with the confirmation of the county board. But if there's other names, we have to have this approved prior to June 30th. So we have, I guess, the June county board meeting to complete, to put in those statements. So we still have time. It'd be nice to get the final list approval at that May meeting. But there's maybe typically 2 meetings a year, Mark?
Well,
on average?
I'd say maybe 2 or 3.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody that wants to be on it. Everybody I've talked to that want nothing to do with it, so. Can always ask.
And essentially, yeah, the Board of Adjustments is that body that when there's, they grant variances and so they make the determinations based on state law on that, and it's have to be very precise, and so that it's an important committee, but also challenging to get people to volunteer for that.
So, okay, in regards to all of that, the Board of Adjustment has made 2 decisions on Mr. Malashewski's proposal. Who takes precedence, us or the Board of Adjustment?
They grant the variance.
The Board of Adjustment has the say-so on granting variances.
And they're
the committee doesn't.
and so they were basing their decision on the existing law at the time that was in effect. Now, as a legislative body, if you want to change that, you have the authority to go and change that.
So we are essentially his next step. you know, in the case of.
That's what I'm trying to
Yeah.
clarify here is, I don't want to step on another party's
Yeah,
toes.
go ahead, Verge.
Okay, the Board of Adjustment, when someone applies for, let's say they want to build a building, and they can't meet the setback from the town road of 63 feet, they would fill out an application, they would go to the board, that application would go to the Board of Adjustment to apply for a variance. If the Board of Adjustment does not, or grants a variance and there's an appeal, it has to go to the circuit court. You do not hear that. But you can change, as Ed is requesting, to change the ordinance to go with that.
And typically, when we change ordinance, we're looking to apply for the broader land
Right.
use policies, not a specific individual's position.
I mean, I work more closely with the Board of Adjustment than others do, and I don't think they would take offense to language being changed in ordinances. They just go by what's in the ordinance and that three-step process of what they're required to do. You know, I don't think they would take offense to different ordinance revisions or whatnot, you know, based on past decisions, but.
Verge again?
And just for future reference, in your material that was sent, they meet on an as-needed basis. So obviously, when there's a variance request, then we call the meeting and they meet. Typically, they're meeting the third Wednesday of the month. And they cannot be from the same township. So that's why on the list you were sent, there are different townships behind their names. That's the reason, because they have to be from a different township.
Sure. So if anyone has any suggestions, names, you could get them to Mike. And
Terry's from the town of Unity.
Yeah.
So if we want representation up in that area, we'd have to get a list of
From that
names from
area.
somebody in that area.
Sure. Okay.
Is there a certain type of background that you look for those people?
I don't think so. I mean, the ones that are on there have been on there for many years. I mean, like, there's 2 or 3 of them. Then we had some members that passed away. That's why they were replaced by certain individuals. But I think they just need to be open-minded, and they need to, I don't think they have to have any necessary job or educational background. They just need to be able to hear the facts of the case and make the decisions based on the ordinance, the way it's written, not feelings and all that kind of stuff, you know, and I don't think any of them have a standout above and beyond background more than the next, I guess.
Well, Randy, you've been on it. Do you want to comment? Any comment?
Well, yeah, it's been kind of a varied bunch of things that come up. And, yeah, it's pretty much common sense and following the ordinance and interpreting and going through the steps to document the reasons for the decision. I mean, I haven't actually, as an alternate, I haven't been to a meeting for quite a while.
And when things come in, when Verge and I, you know, they always have the option of applying for a variance, but I wouldn't say we discourage it, but we kind of spell out to the applicant, you know, it's pretty limited on getting a variance granted, you know, there's extenuating circumstances above and beyond that it can't be done, you know, and a lot of times it steers people away from applying for one, and then they just revamp their plans to meet the requirements.
Okay. So if anyone has any names they'd like to suggest, reach out to Mike and move forward with that. Item number 16, future agenda items. Does anyone have something that they feel needs to be discussed?
Probably gonna have another conditional use permit application, or we have the application in, I didn't do any notices until we know for sure how we're gonna set the next meeting dates. And that's for electrical substation. It's gonna be a conditional use under our utilities part of our chapter for Riverland that's down in the town of Trempealeau, I believe, but on Trowbridge, which is between Centerville and Arcadia. And it's just for a standard substation. That's the only thing I know of right now that's in the works.
I think there could be some more cell tower issues coming up because
I've had some questions on that, but right now it's just kind of in the planning stage.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of them are co-locating, and then some of them are just they're actually, yeah, there's a cell tower up in, just outside of Osseo, but they're still in the planning process. They haven't gone through the township level.
Yeah, they
So, yeah,
contact.
I can't, I know if it was, I guess it doesn't matter who it was, but I guess it was a tower company, not actually the provider that was, I talked to.
Yeah, I got a letter. It was like S&S something.
So, I mean, and it's not gonna be quite like when that one company was here, like every month, they come in with 3 different.
Right, yeah.
And, I think they're looking at, we had a co-location one, which doesn't require anything other than a permit. That was for US Cellular by Blair. And then I did get contacted by the one in, just outside of Osseo, but they haven't even got to the township level of approval yet. And I'm sure there's more out there, but that's the ones I've heard of, so.
I went to a township meeting. I don't think they've officially applied, but there might be another one coming your guys' way. It got approved by the township, but again, they haven't officially, they said they would, but I'm sure they haven't, like Mike, the one I showed you the other day. I don't think they've officially applied, but there might be one coming.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he'll know more about that one. He kind of overlooked it. Plus, I have a copy too.
Okay. If no other, oh,
Just a quick, back on that substation, that's a whole new substation? that
Yes. Yeah.
they're- Okay, are they trying to combine some of them that they bought from Darrell?
I guess I don't really know the whole background on it, but they acquired some property. They actually own the piece with this parcel that's going on, and they're just applying for a substation, you know.
okay. Next, we'll move on to 8:17 and confirm our next regular meeting date. Typically, we have met the first Wednesday of the month at 9 a.m. What are the wishes of this committee? Does that still work for everybody?
Yep.
Prefer evenings if possible.
I think that gets to be awful difficult for all the staff that we require, especially with the conditional, all the permits that we end up having to go through. It gets to be very difficult to have all the staff in place that we need. Would that be fair to say?
Well, yeah, it would certainly, you know, for at least salary-wise, I'm exempt.
Right.
But other employees would not be. I always say it's up to the committee, but I mean, again, we can serve the committee if we need to, and I think I think the employees appreciate day meetings from that perspective, but I certainly understand the needs of the committee.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of times when we've had unexpected things come up and we've been able to call in people from the building because they're here.
Sure.
Like Mike, lots of times we've had him come answer a question, and so I think that's a reason to keep it where it is.
Yeah, I mean, the times can definitely change, so, I mean, what are the wishes of the whole committee?
Days of the week, I mean, we've been doing Wednesdays. Does a different day of the week work better for people?
Because it just interferes with my work schedule a lot. You guys want to keep it on the first week of the month?
Doesn't matter to me.
It helps a little bit, at least when applications come in. You know, usually we kind of have an informal cutoff date of that first Friday, and so that for applications, so then we are able to get notices out. It'd be nice to keep it the first week of the month.
Verge?
I will say too that for rezons, there has to be a 10-day window between you approving, the committee approving it and the county board meeting. So we like to keep that window.
Just ask a question.
Sure.
It is what it is.
Well, and we will confirm this monthly, So if there does become an issue, this can always be revisited. Otherwise, is June 1st, 9 a.m. acceptable? Okay, for June 1st, we will meet on next month at 9 a.m. in the county boardroom. And item 18 is adjournment. So I will adjourn at 10:45.